this just broke my brain, as the LA Clippers have been a dumpster fire this season. They have the NBA investigating them for all the off-the-books transactions they had with Kawhi Leonard. We covered all that in the summer, and now trade rumors are starting to escalate regarding some of their top guys, and a portion of the Raptors fan base is looking at this as an opportunity for this team to cash in, and as they did in 2019, trade for a minimal trade value Kawhi Leonard and cash in to win a championship. Now, I am by no means saying this is smart. I am by no means saying that this is the avenue that the Toronto Raptors should go down, as the money and the position, all of the contracts make this very, very weird. However, there is one trade package if the LA Clippers end up going down this path that would be at least worth a discussion for the Toronto Raptors and makes for a very interesting hypothetical for this team moving forward. So we're going to break down what that is, what the reports are right now regarding the LA Clippers, and why the Raptors would have to look, even if I disagree with it, at a trade proposal like this from the LA Clippers. So lots of stuff to break down in this. Of course, I am prefacing all of this. It is still very early on in the season, and the Toronto Raptors are one of the best teams out there in the Eastern Conference. Even with losing 3 of their last 4 games, Bobby Webster, Masai Ujiri have put together a really strong, enticing squad that is tied for the 2nd seed in the Eastern Conference right now with the New York Knicks. And, the Knicks have a better win percentage, so I guess we're 3rd. But the Raptors are fine. The Raptors don't need to make any crazy blockbuster moves. I still stand on the fact we need to improve our stuff at the center position, get some backups, one backup 7-footer around Jakob Poeltl, so in games where he is injured, things will be fine. I'm by no means, campaigning for a big blockbuster trade, especially as someone that, has talked about this entire season, not wanting to trade RJ Barrett. I started a movement, especially when the trade talks were a lot hotter, a few months ago. I did not want to trade RJ Barrett. I still do not want that to be the case. But there are a couple things coming up regarding the LA Clippers right now. First of it starts with Zubac. Of course, their center that was is still an elite defensive big man out there in the NBA. One of the highest value pieces out there, felt like last season, stock was rising. But now a report has come out, essentially, that there have been mixed signals around the league from teams that have contacted the LA Clippers about Zubac, and if they are actually willing to discuss his name in trade talks. But early indication is the Los Angeles would demand at least 2 first-round picks, sources have said. Zubac has received most interest out of any player out there on the Clippers entering December, as multiple Eastern and Western Conference teams in playoff positions have called Frank and Los Angeles to get info about their starting center. So there has been some buzz. There has been some chatter about the LA Clippers blowing things up. And of course, I discussed how I want to see the Toronto Raptors make a trade for a center, bring someone in. I'm standing on business on this. I don't care how good the Toronto Raptors are. We need another center footer so we don't punt games where Jakob Poeltl is resting on a back-to-back. Standing on that this entire year until it gets fixed. I don't care if we're the 1st seed. We need to fill our backup center roster. Now, Zubac will probably be the starting center for who's brought in, but that's not the big discourse. That's not what's in the thumbnail of this video, because there's this report that came out from Brian Windhorst as well, saying that people around the league believe that Kawhi Leonard now has negative trade value. So this is coming from Brian Windhorst. That is very, very interesting for a guy in Kawhi Leonard that is having, again, he's dealt with injuries. Yes, it's off the court scandal going on, but that ended up screwing the Toronto Raptors out of another championship, in my opinion. But Kawhi has been fantastic this season, averaging 26 points per game, has played 12 games, so again, still dealing with injuries and stuff, but 5.5 rebounds, 3 assists per night, is still one of the most efficient players out there in all of basketball. He's 4th in the NBA in steals per game, so still providing solid value out there on the defensive end. Kawhi Leonard, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, is still, when healthy, when on the court, one of the best players in basketball. And now you are getting reports, you are getting discussions, you are getting discourse that this guy has negative trade value in the NBA. And where a lot of this comes from, and I don't have the full quotes here, but his contract makes it very, very difficult to move off of, and the LA Clippers are wanting to get out of the Kawhi Leonard business. There's been a lot of rumors, a lot of discussions, a lot of discourse about that fact, because, again, it's a bad look that, all the aspiration stuff, the Clippers have been a cursed franchise. There's a lot of buzz about them just not wanting to deal with the drama queen that is Kawhi Leonard. Paired on top of it, they have an asset out there in Ivica Zubac, who is one of the, upper echelon centers in the NBA. 16.2 points per game, 12 rebounds, 2.7 assists. Very efficient. A big man that is one of the better defenders, was in the DPOY conversations for a while last season. Zub is a very good basketball player as well. Now, Kawhi's contract at about $50 million per year makes it very hard for the Raptors to cash in on this negative trade value that Kawhi Leonard has. So that is something that makes it difficult and tough to really bring up and discuss. But there is one trade package that I put together that, again, I came into this ready to rip into this trade. Just be like, no, there's no world you trade for Kawhi. He's 34 years old. He's dealt with injuries and stuff. But this one, and as an RJ Barrett stan, this one at least you have to think about. And on the surface, it might look like a bad trade. It might look like a bad move. So the Raptors would get Kawhi Leonard, Ivica Zubac, as well as Chris Dunn out there from the LA Clippers. In order for the money to work, you send out Immanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, and Ochai Agbaji to the LA Clippers. Now, in this package, you were doing it off the fact that the Clippers want to get out of the Kawhi Leonard business. There's not a lot of suitors for him, and you want to get some young talent, some young elite players back. And guys like RJ Barrett have proved this season that they are valuable pieces out there in the NBA. RJ Barrett, of course, this year averaging 19.4 points per game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, on very efficient shooting. A guy that's out on the wing, can replace all the production they lost in Norman Powell, which is very, very impactful for that group last season, because the Clippers don't have their draft picks, so they're not trying to tank. They'd want some valuable pieces back. And then you have Immanuel Quickley as well, proving to be a starting caliber point guard in the league, 16 points per game, 6 assists per night, knocking down 3-point shots at a 39% rate. This would completely fortify the LA Clippers backcourt and, give them a wing out there, to run things off of in terms of their stats, in terms of everything like that. IQ, RJ Barrett would be a crazy, crazy get for Kawhi Leonard if he's a negative asset. Of course, Zubac is a very valuable piece out there in this trade scenario. And you look at it, you also get Ochai Agbaji, who's having a brutal season out there from the 3-point line, but that is what it is. So they get out of the Kawhi Leonard business. They do have to give up Zubac, which is a tough position for them to be in. But the Raptors, of course, you say no to this trade because that would completely damage the vibes out here in this group. That would be the reason the Raptors that have been rolling, they've been elite, they've been awesome. The reason the Raptors would say no to this, and the youth movement, the upside of IQ of RJ Barrett and all that, that's the reason you say no. But I look, and that's a strong enough reason for me to say no to this as well. But I look, if that's the package, if that's the lineup, they want to get out of that Kawhi Leonard business. If this is the trade that you have, you'd have to believe in Jamal Shead to be your starting point guard now at this point. But if you were at a lineup of Jamal Shead, Brandon Ingram, Scottie Barnes, Kawhi Leonard, and Zub out there at the center spot, that is by far the best defensive team in the NBA. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That is, and then off the bench, too, you have Chris Dunn, who's a very strong defender. Ochai Agbaji's traded in this package, so he should be off the list. But you have Jakob Walter there off the bench. You have CMB off the bench. You have Poeltl coming off the bench. You now have an opportunity where you have the best center tandem out there in the NBA with Poeltl and Zubac, be able to fill in minutes, split the minutes out there in the game so you limit injury risk and stuff. You have Kawhi Leonard, who, again, statistically is having a phenomenal year at his 34-year-old age season. He's not like 40 years old. He's not Kevin Durant age. He still has some, injuries might prevent him from having a lot of gas left in the tank, but he is still producing when he is out there on the basketball court. I don't know. I came into this video. That's why it broke my brain. Ready to just rip into it. Ready to just I look at this lineup, man, and I see a team that's coming out of the Eastern Conference at least. I see a team that's coming out of the Eastern Conference at least. Of course, Kawhi would have to stay healthy. That is a tough package. That is a tough lineup. It's not tough to say no about Immanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett getting traded. By no means. By no stretch of the imagination. But look at this lineup. You look at the defense that this could provide. Shed being the assist man that he has been this entire season. I know Shed's been inefficient out there in recent games and stuff. But, he's up there 38th in the NBA in assists per game, coming off the bench and just playing 19 minutes per night. He gets a ton of steals. He plays a lot of defense. He's shooting 34% from the 3-point line. Again, he's been in a bit of a slump as of late. Doesn't score that much around the basket. But, if Shed's not cutting it out there on certain nights, you run Scottie at point guard and you figure it out. You have Chucky Hepburn off the bench. In this scenario, you also get a Chris Dunn who, could provide similar value out there in this team. I mean, I'm a bit speechless in terms of what this trade could do. And now I am a guy, I am being honest, I am being upfront with you. Kawhi Leonard never soured in my books. I love Kawhi Leonard. I watched that season in pure glee and pure bliss to have the best player in the NBA at the time out there on our roster. So I just think back to those moments. You have Brandon Ingram. You have Scottie Barnes now, who can take the load off of Kawhi completely over the course of the season. Let him rest. Let him do whatever. And then come playoff time, let Kawhi do what he does. I don't know. I'm posing it to you guys right now because I don't really know what I do here now at this point. But would you make this trade? Yeah, type Y for yes, N for no. Would you make this trade? I'll respond to every comment. Would you trade Immanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, Ochai Agbaji for Kawhi Leonard, Zub, and Chris Dunn? Now, I don't know how they're valuing Zub. I don't know what, the Clippers, because again, it's a tough situation for them to be in. They'd have to want to be getting young and valuable pieces, valuable assets. But this put my brain in a blender. This put my brain in an absolute blender, and I want to know if I'm just delusional, if I'm crazy for even thinking this is a move that should be made. I'm not saying it should be made either, because I think this would really affect the vibes on this roster, but I don't know, man. It's an interesting spot. The Raptors are at a very interesting spot as well right now, facing off. The team has been rolling still third out there in the Eastern Conference. The schedule is picking up a little bit as of late. You face the Charlotte Hornets tonight, I believe. Yes, the Charlotte Hornets tonight. The Celtics have been rolling lately out there Sunday. The Bucks, who are without Giannis now, so Celtics, Nets. Not the heaviest of schedules coming up, but the Raptors have about mid-level schedule going the rest of the season. You're 15-8. You've been beating bad teams over the course of this year. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how these things shake out. But let me know in the comment section below how you're feeling. Again, my brain's in a little bit of a blender right now. You guys are the best. I'm signing out. Cheers.